Our next guest never planned on writing down her thoughts, let alone publish a book that included details of an unthinkable crime that happened to her 13-year-old daughter. In 2009, her daughter was sexually assaulted by a group of her male peers at an 8th grade New Year's Eve party. But after extensive counseling and in order to cope, she found comfort in putting her thoughts on paper. Her first novel, Still Smiling, is part of the healing process. Stephanie Bernstein is a mother of 7 and joins us now on Connecticut Style. Wow, 7 kids. How old's the oldest and how old's the youngest, Stephanie?
My oldest is turning 21 this month, and my youngest just turned 7.
Okay, so let's go back for a minute here. It's really a parent's worst nightmare. 2009, if you could just kind of recap what happened to your family.
Well, you're starting with the hardest question. It was New Year's Eve, and one of my children's birthday is also New Year's Eve, one of my little ones. So we were going to a friend's house who also has little children, and my older children were going to parties. And the last thing that would ever enter my mind is that at a party where parents were home, people that I knew, that something like this could happen, but my 13-year-old daughter was assaulted.
And what was the first step? How did you and your daughter, your family, start to recover from all of this?
Well, we didn't know for the first few weeks. We knew something was wrong, but she never told us. She just didn't want to go to school and was crying. And when she finally told us, the first thing we did, well, we went to the police, then we went to counseling. And that's kind of what's helped us the most.
Sure, and that's kind of where the writing for you started off, right?
Yeah, exactly. I started writing as a catharsis. It just felt good to get my thoughts on paper, and I did it at night primarily when my kids were sleeping so that they wouldn't see me get upset, because a lot of times I would write things. Right. And then it kind of just took off, and
you started writing about kind of your childhood and some of the memories you had, which were kind of humorous, you found out.
Yeah, well, it was the impetus. It kind of invoked all these memories, and I just started writing, and it just felt good to write, and it took on a life of its own. And then all of a sudden, here I had 300 pages, and I was editing some essays for college for my niece, and my sister said, you know, you're really good. You should try and put something together. And I said, well, I have a lot of writing, and that's how it kind of started forming into a book.
I actually read that you had a pet squirrel at one point, too.
Yeah, kind of every animal that needed help, I
took in? That's great.
Fell out of a nest when it was a newborn when I was in college, and Squirt was its name, and kind of became our pet for a few months.
Sure. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
One brother, one sister.
And they're kind of in the story as well?
Oh, yeah, hugely in the story.
All right, so we have to talk about being a mom of 7. How do you do with this? Do it every day.
It's kind of crazy.
I could imagine, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone has their own schedules and everything else.
Oh, it's crazy. Just the logistics of getting everyone everywhere, and all their activities, coaching and homework and meals. It's a chaos, but I've kind of gotten used to it.
It's a lot of organizing, I'm sure, right? I want to ask you, what does being a mother and family mean to you? I'm sure it's so important.
It's everything. I don't know, once you become a mother, everything else just takes a back burner, you know, it's everything to me.
And also in the book, you'll find some recipes. Tell us why you decided to include that.
Well, because eating is such a huge part of our lives.
It's true, right?
We love to eat.
It's a little bit comforting sometimes.
And my family, my mom, my grandmother, they were such great cooks, and now my children are following in our footsteps, and we all cook, and that was kind of a healing thing as well. My daughter, when she stayed home with me for the first few months, we just cooked constantly, old recipes from my grandmother and my mother, and so I thought that should be in there because it was a huge part of it.
Any standout recipes in the book we'll find?
Oh, geez, lots.
Lots? I'll have to go through it.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what do you want people to take away from your book after reading it? Because it's your life story.
Yeah, I had a little writer's remorse after I wrote it because I put so much in there.
Yeah.
And then I was going to edit some out, and some people who read it for me said, no, it makes it real, you know, it makes people realize what you've gone through, and it helps heal other, you know, for people who are going through similar things. And you know, I've had people tell me that, you know, they experienced a death in the family, like when my grandmother died, and reading the book helped them, or something traumatic with one of their children. And I think, you know, I felt so alone when it was happening to me. Like, how could this happen to me as a parent? You know, it is your worst nightmare. And then just the ripple effect and how it affected each one of my children. And so I hope people read it and learn that with family and friends and a little humor interspersed in there, you can get through it.
Very good, and I understand the writing's working for you. You have a couple more books in the works.
Yeah, well, I loved it so much. It felt so good to write that once I finished the first one, I thought, well, there's more here, and more things just kept happening. So yeah, I'm halfway through my second book, and I think there's going to be 3.
Wow,
So.
a pretty interesting life. We're going to enjoy the book.
Here's hoping.
Give us the name again and where we can find it, Stephanie.
Still Smiling. Right now it's on Amazon and Kindle, and hopefully we'll get a publisher and it'll be in bookstores soon.
Very good. Steffi, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next, we're heading back into the kitchen. We're making sushi rolls when Connecticut Style returns. We'll be right back.